All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Hope everyone's doing all right. Yeah, so question came in earlier. Questions comes up, and that is, can a Jew or a Noahide go into a church or a mosque? Yeah, so good question. So we'll start with a Jew. Question is, can a Jew go into a church or a mosque? So a Jew allowed to go into a mosque. We hold that a mosque is not idolatry. Someone will say there are opinions that do hold it's idolatry. We don't hold that way. So a person could, they had nowhere else to pray. I mean, you can really pray almost anywhere, right? But if you had nowhere else to pray, I could go to a mosque. Why? Because again, it's not idolatry, right? It's not a problem of idolatry, so I could pray there. Now, could a Jew walk into a church? That's a problem, right? That is definitely a problem. There is a question among the early commentators, later commentaries, whether the Trinity, or as they call it in rabbinic literature, shituf, is considered idolatry or not. So we'll cut to the chase. For a Jew, there's a major disagreement over here among the early commentators, later commentaries. And it comes out that we hold that it is, and we hold it's forbidden for a Jew to go into a church. Right? A mosque, again, wouldn't be a problem. For a Jew to walk into a church, definitely would be a problem. Now, could a Jew walk into a church for something else? Right? To go vote or something like that. So that will do it. But let's just hit the other part of the question. What about a non-Jew? So non-Jew walking into a mosque, not a problem. Right? Again, for a non-Jew, not a problem. Why? Because it's not idolatry. Right? So we hold it's not idolatry. So same status as a Jew, they can walk into a mosque. Right? They can go into a mosque. Can they go into a church? Now, by a Jew, it's going to be forbidden. Right? For a Jew, it's going to be forbidden. For a non-Jew, can they go into a church? Something like that's a problem. Right? Because even if you say it's a major disagreement, among rabbinic authorities, whether the Trinity applies, it's going to be forbidden for Jews or not. Right? The question for non-Jews, is different. There's a question whether that should apply to non-Jews or not. We hold in general it should be forbidden anyway, right? Because there's an important point I think most people don't know. They just throw terms around and say, oh, it's shituf, it's Trinity, it's a sure forbidden, this and that, right? Why is it forbidden? Right? That's the question. Why? So the Torah says, you shouldn't, 10 commandments, it's idolatry, right? Don't make any other gods before me. Don't give something power that it doesn't have, right? That's essentially what idolatry is. Now, doesn't mean just bowing down to an idol. What do people give power to that has really no power, so to speak? It could be money, right? Power, fame, what do people worship? Food. People certainly worship food. Sports, entertainment to a certain extent. But if you're gonna, pin me down and say, okay, what about idolatry over here? Right? So you have to understand another thing. And that is that the problem with Christianity, Islam, and any other, so-called religion, even if we hold Islam is not idolatry, and it's the closest thing to the Noahide laws, that may be true. Right? I had a secular Quranist I don't even know. It's like a play on, it's a play on words here. It's like a secular Muslim. Yeah, keep dogging me, saying that, we have to go convince the Christians and the whole world, basically to be, monotheists or whatever. And if we're not going to deal with Noahides, right? Non-Jews don't want to convert. We should allow them to be, what they'll call Islamic lights. So anyway, we don't hold by it's a false religion. That's a different issue. Even if I would say it's close to the Noahide laws because they believe in one God. Okay, let's say, right? But all I have to do is find one thing where the Muslims don't go like the Torah, don't go like us, that shows it's false, right? Shows it's a false religion. But the point, and I don't even have to do that, it's just a waste of time. But the point is by Islam, by Christianity, and by any of these other so-called religions, you cannot go against what Moshe Rabbeinu says. Right? The Torah says clear, Moshe Rabbeinu says you can't add or subtract to the Torah. Right? So if you look at Jeremiah chapter 30, what about the new covenant? How can there be new covenant? You can't go against what Moshe says. Right? It's internal logic. You cannot go against what he says. Right? So it's a good question. Why do they call it the Brit HaChadasha, the new, quote unquote, the new covenant over here? Logic would tell me there can't be a new covenant. Without knowing anything else, you can't go against what Moshe says. That's what God says. God says Moses is my trusted servant, said in front of 3 million people, give or take. Right? He's my trusted servant. You listen to whatever he says. Okay. So if I have to listen to whatever he says, how can you go against him? The Christians have their own warped way of looking at things. But if you look at the context of what Jeremiah is talking about, which this is where they go south in many ways, right? And that is, they don't look at the context. They ignore the context. So the whole beginning of the chapter, Jeremiah is screaming at the Jewish people, like he's doing throughout most of the book, I want you to reconnect to the old covenants. I want you to keep what God said before, not to veer off. Doesn't sound like a new covenant to me. He's telling them to reconnect. I want you to reconnect to the old covenant. That's not new. There's nothing new being new over here. But what's the problem in general? The problem in general over here is that you cannot make up a new religion. It's what we call in rabbinic literature, chidushe das. You are innovating. Chidushe means like an innovation, a novelty, right? You're innovating das. What's das? Religion. You're making up a new religion. That's the problem. We can find contradictions in the New Testament. That's very easy to do. I can find problems with the Quran. That's not going to be a problem to do. Or any of these other, so-called religions. That doesn't really matter, right? I can find contradictions. Anytime you find a contradiction in any of these books, it's false. God doesn't make mistakes, right? God doesn't make mistakes. So if that's true, then I got an issue. I got a major issue over here. And the fact is, it's a new religion. If it's a new religion, it's out. Can't go against what Moshe Rabbeinu says, right? So in that sense, for a non-Jew going into, Trinity, right? Even if it's not a problem of idolatry for a non-Jew, right? For a Jew, there's nothing to talk about. For a non-Jew, right, there's a good question there. There's a good question whether it's really idolatry or not. In any case, it's going to be forbidden. Why is it going to be forbidden? Right? What's the obvious reason we just said? Why is it going to be forbidden? It's forbidden one very simple reason. You know why it's forbidden? Chidushe das, the new religion. Can't make up a new religion. Now, even if you can't make up a new religion, the question is, can a non-Jew walk into a church? Right? So even if it's not idolatry for a non-Jew, let's say, right? I'll be generous here. Let's say it's not idolatry. Okay. And if it's not idolatry, then they can walk in. Seemingly they can walk in. They can't pray there, right? I wouldn't tell them to pray there, for sure, not in their sanctuary or a side room necessarily, right? But to walk in for a non-Jew doesn't seem like it's an issue. If there's a service going on there, let's clarify, because I don't want people to, splice me up and say, oh, look, he said this over here. They didn't hear the rest of it. If they walk in and there's a service going on, that's a problem for a Jew or a non-Jew, even if they're not praying them, right? Even if they're not praying them. So that goes for both. Now the question would be, going into a mosque for a Jew or non-Jew, not a problem. Going into a church be a problem for a Jew, right? Not necessarily a problem for a non-Jew unless there's a service going on, right? That's why a non-Jew should not go. Let's say they have a loved one that dies and the service is going to be in a church, can't go. Or even it's going to be in a chapel, not necessarily in a church, but it's going to be a service there. You can't be there, right? That is forbidden, right? And for many people, say it, it's a hard thing. I'm not going to say not. It's a hard thing. They want to be there, to, show the last respects. Okay, right? That you're allowed to do. You can't walk in the church, though. You can't walk in the chapel where the service is going on. That's for sure not. Right? You want to go to the cemetery afterwards. That's not a problem. Right? But to hear the service going on, that's a big problem. Right? That would be a big problem even for non-Jews. Even if they say in the back of their mind, the front of their mind, I don't believe in it. It's a bunch of bunk, and it's this and it's that. Doesn't matter. You're guilty by association, right? In such a case. So that's one thing. Now, the second thing, which I alluded to before, and that is, what about going into a church for something else? You're not going in, there's no service going on, right? There's no service going on, right? Totally no service going on. You go into a side room in order to vote. In order to, I don't know, maybe, if someone, let's say there was a meeting there for, I don't know, Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. They meet in a room in a church. Could you go? No service going on, right? Maybe it should be fine. For a non-Jew, I think it's a non-issue. There's a non-issue. Doesn't matter if there were, if this guy's hanging on the stick all over the walls, right? That doesn't matter, right? That's totally irrelevant, right? Because you're not praying to him. Nobody there is praying to them. You walk in and someone, and a non-Jew there, and hopefully it's only a non-Jew, right? I mean, it's forbidden for them anyway, but non-Jew walks in there and bows, prostrates themselves and bows. That's not your problem, right? You don't have to worry about that. The fact that, okay, they have them hanging up there or whatever, as long as there's no service going on and it's a side room, so it doesn't matter, right? You're not there for that function, so to speak, right? So even let's say, the church is empty. You need to go to a side room or whatever. So it's a different issue, right? There's nothing going on. For a Jew, there's a fundamental principle here. For a Jew to walk in for anything should be a problem. 100% it should be a problem. Even if there's no service going on, right? It's what it represents. So even if there's no service going on, I would say, no, not allowed to. Now, some would say, okay, there's no service going on. If there's no service going on, it's a side room. And let's say we'll make it even easier. There's no guy hanging around in the side room. They don't have anyone hanging on the wall. Even less, it should be less of a problem. Why? There's nothing going on. There's no issue, right? No one's praying there, right? And no one's going to bow there. There's nothing there. There's totally nothing there. So in that sense, maybe it's okay, right? That would be all right, right? But I would say, again, across the board, for a non-Jew, except in the case where there's a prayer service going on, right? I would say that a non-Jew can go, to any of these side rooms, go vote, play cards, whatever, that wouldn't be an issue, right? A Jew to walk in such a place, even for the sake of, voting, there are rabbinical authorities who say, there's nothing else going on, right? Even if there's no one hanging up there or whatever, some would say it could be all right. Why? Because nothing going on. Others would say, no, idolatry is idolatry. The whole place is forbidden no matter what. Right? So then there would be a question. And what's the question? The question would be, what happens? You got to use the bathroom. Happens, right? You know what they say, when you got to go, right? So what happens? The closest place, there's nothing else around, right? Happens to be a church there. Can you go to the bathroom? Right? So I remember a number of years ago, I was, many years ago, when I was in a certain when I was in a certain place with one of my kids, and they need the bathroom, so they happen to be McDonald's there. Now the McDonald's wasn't kosher, right? This is here in Israel, wasn't kosher, right? Here in Israel, you can have the first ultra kosher treif McDonald's, right? You can have kosher meat, kosher cheese, put them together, it's treif, right? It's not kosher, right? In most places, it's only eating milk and meats on a rabbinic level, because most McDonald's in the world, cheese isn't kosher, the meat's not kosher, right? It's a rabbinic prohibition. Be a rabbinic prohibition for a Jew to eat it, not a Torah prohibition. But in any case, I want to use the bathroom. So the security guard there, the security guard says, well, this McDonald's isn't kosher. So I was like, I was glad he pointed it out, right? So he says, well, this isn't kosher. I said, the bathroom kosher? He says, yeah, the bathroom's kosher. So got a big smile, and and that was it. But the problem can be, and this brings up another issue. It brings up another issue, and that is there's such a thing called Marisayin. What does Marisayin mean? It means to give someone a false impression. Meaning you walk into a McDonald's, Jew who's dressed as an Orthodox Jew, let's say. They walk into a McDonald's. Now, technically, could you walk into a McDonald's and get a soda? If the soda's kosher, yeah? Yeah. You want Coke from the machine. Is that a problem? Probably not a problem. I mean, nothing treif, there shouldn't be anything treif in the machine, right? It's just other soda, per se. It could be, maybe there's non-kosher soda in there, nothing's hot, it could be if it's cleaned out and whatever. So whatever, there could be halachic issues there. Why you shouldn't get, a soda from McDonald's. But let's say even better. Let's say you got a can, right? We'll make it easier, right? You're not taking from a soda machine. Soda machine, you could have some problems. So let's say you got a can of soda. Right? You buy a can of soda at McDonald's. Is that a problem? Technically? You didn't do anything wrong. Why not? Soda. Soda's kosher, right? Let's say soda's kosher, right? So you don't have a problem. Where's the problem? Where is the problem? Where is the problem? Problem is, a secular Jew sees you there. They may say, oh, look, must be permissible to eat McDonald's. Right? Why? Because they see an Orthodox Jew in a McDonald's. That gives off a false impression. Right? So the whole question of person, let's say, a person's in business, and they client takes them out for lunch, let's say. Take them out for lunch. No kosher places. No kosher places where you live. Yeah, not for hundreds of miles. So say, let's go to this diner. Could you go to the diner? Yeah. So really, it's a problem. Right? What's the problem? Jew walks by, sees a Jew in there, visibly looking Jew. They're going to think it's kosher to eat there. It's okay to eat there. It's called Marisayin. Right? In other words, you're giving a false impression. Totally a false impression. Now, what if you're not going to eat it there? You know you're not going to eat there. Everybody knows you're not going to eat there. You have dietary restrictions. Dietary restrictions. Right? So you'd have water. So what's the problem with water? Not any problem. You're going to say, what about the glass? What's the glass used for? First of all, glass doesn't make a treif. You're not going to put probably something treif in the glass. And even if they did, if they wash it, it doesn't absorb. Right? Glass doesn't normally absorb. So you have less issues. But let's say they agree to give you in a paper cup, even better. Right? Would a person be allowed to do that? Gives off a bad impression. Yeah. And someone's going to say, oh, look, Jews are allowed to eat in this place. And if there are no Jews there for hundreds of miles, might not necessarily be a problem at all. It looks bad. Right? So we hold there's a principle. There's a principle, Marisayin, that you're in a situation where, sort of a compromising situation, an Orthodox Jew in a treif place, non-kosher place that looks pretty bad. That's going to carry over whether you're in a treif place or you're in your own home also. right? Even if you shut the door wherever you are, right? If there's a problem of how things look, it's going to be problematic, not just in public, also in private, right? It's unbelievable stringency. Yeah. You're going to say, well, it's only in public. No one sees me. Isn't the problem, Mari Zion? Someone's going to see me and they're going to think, oh, it's kosher place. So if I'm in the confines of my own home, no one's seen it, right? Nobody's seen. That's the obvious question. Nobody's seen me do anything, right? I'm right here in my sealed room, right? Even though people can still hear me yelling and screaming in a sealed room. So that's the way it goes. But, even in a place where nobody sees you, it's also forbidden behavior, right? Forbidden behavior is also forbidden because of how it looks and whatever, even if nobody sees you, right? But we're going to make it easy here. Somebody could see you. If there's no Jews around anywhere, Jews are everywhere, right? Well, let's say you live in a place, let's say you go to a country club. Go to a country club in the mountains somewhere. There are no Jews at all. No Jews living there at all. The chances of a Jew walking in are like 1 in a billion. So that takes down the problem. That would take down that problem. Why? Because the Jew not going to see you. So there shouldn't be an issue over here. But there's a moral imperative, right? This is what I speak about a lot in the Noahide laws. There's a moral imperative. And the moral imperative would tell you shouldn't be in such a place anyway. Or let's say you had a family function. You had a family function in such a place, right? As a Jew. Doesn't apply to a non-Jew here. As a Jew, yeah, you have a family function, only Jews are there. You have your own food. Everyone knows you have your own kosher food. So there's no problem any Jew's going to see you over here. The problem is, should you be there now? For the sake of family, shalom bayis, as we say, family harmony, there could be some leniencies here. Now, you tell me, maybe if they see you there, you interact with people, this and that, they're going to think, oh, look, what a sanctification of God's name. Look, he's coming to this place, wants to be part of the family, very good. Yeah, so maybe there'd be such a leniency for that, right? And if there's nothing going on, they just want you to be there because they want you to be there because family's family, right? And blood is thicker than water, right? Everyone ever heard that? Blood is thicker than water, so you should be there anyway. Forget about your principles. Yeah, so even if you tell me, really, there's nothing wrong here. Nobody's thinking you're eating there. No other Jews coming from the outside are thinking it's okay. So the $1.5 million question is, are you allowed to eat there? Even if you have your own kosher food, even if it's all earmarked. No one's going to mix it up. There's not going to be an issue. Everybody knows. You have your kosher food. There could be Jews there, non-Jews there together. It doesn't really matter. No Jew from the outside walking in thinking this is a kosher place. So according to Jewish law, all these factors, you can knock out the question and say, be permissible. Certainly for the sake of family, be permissible. Yeah. Now, what about a moral issue? Is there a moral issue? So someone would say you make a big sanctification of God's name by being there. Yeah. So you should be there. You should be there. It doesn't hurt. But someone will say, all these secular Jews, they're all eating treif. They're all eating not kosher. You're watching them eat non-kosher. Okay, that's their issue. It's not your issue. You have your own, kosher food. No one else is touching. Okay? So let me ask again. Would a person want to be in such a situation? You sound me for the sake of family. Right? For the sake of family. So you could go. In theory, you could go. If it's not going to be a sanctification of God's name, they just want you there. There's a moral issue. Right? There's a moral issue. And the moral issue is they want you to be there anyway. They don't really care. Family. This is where they're doing it. So you're compromising. Again, you can get rid of a number of the issues. It's a complicated question here, but you can get rid of a number of issues to the point where you can say, really, there's no issue. It just looks bad, right? But even that issue's gone, right? No one's thinking you're there eating, non-kosher food and this and that. So that knocks off all the issues. So for the sake of family, you could go, right? But there'd be something nagging at you. You don't want to be there. whether they get along with family or not. You don't want to be there. Who wants to see the family eating treif? If they're non-Jews, okay, let them eat as much non-kosher as they want. That doesn't matter. They don't have to keep kosher. There's no mitzvah or any idea for them to keep kosher. Fine. At the same time, it's going to nag at a person. It's going to make them feel uncomfortable. Yeah. So should they be there? So there could be other things that outweigh it that would say they should be there. Anyway, at the same time, as a moral imperative, if someone were to say, I feel very uncomfortable being there, yeah, it'd be a big thing for family to see me, this, that, but I feel extremely uncomfortable, I don't want to be there. So you have to weigh the issue. If it's that important for a person to be there, and yeah, it'll make a sanctification of God's name. If you say, wow, such a big thing that they came, whatever, it's probably a good thing for them to go. If it's not going to make any difference at all, let's say, and I would venture to guess probably not going to make any difference at all, right? In some cases, if not going to make any difference at all, why do you want to be there? Why should you be there? But again, family's important. Trying to keep a connection. The family's important. The problem is that connection, as we mentioned many times, usually gets broken. Usually gets crushed in many ways. The family rarely stays intact, whether a Jew comes back to Judaism or a non-Jew, wants to convert. That doesn't normally work out, right? I'm not going to be, gloom and doom and someone tells me, yeah, I get along great with the family, everything worked out, blah, 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 very good, right? It doesn't normally happen. All you have to do, you want to test it, go to a family's house for some, I don't know, birthday party, who knows what, Thanksgiving, even better, right? You go there for Thanksgiving, you bring your own food. When you don't start eating in their house and you ate there for years, they're going to get offended. It comes to food, people get offended. I was at a family Hanukkah party and people felt bad. Can't just eat something? I said, I ate before, don't worry. I'm good. I didn't expect anyone to go out of their way. So I took care of my needs before, and that's it. Someone said, can't you? They felt bad. Okay. I was going to say, it felt really bad, so why didn't you get me something kosher? Why didn't you make the whole thing kosher? Right? It's me against 30 other people. Right? So you're in the minority. Okay. I didn't tell anyone they had to do it. I didn't tell anyone they do it at all. Right? Oh, now you're going to make an issue, make me look bad, make me feel bad. Jewish guilt, it's a real thing. You're going to make me feel bad. I'm not taking the bite. I'm not taking the bait. I said, no, I'm good. But they really felt bad. Okay. Next time, order kosher food. That's what I would tell them if they wanted to do it. Obligation. I went to a mourner's house years ago. Brought my own food. Picked up my own food or whatever. So when they ate, I ate, and I just ate different things. Okay. I don't want to expect in a mourner's house they're going to feed me, though. I was coming out of town anyway, right? So I'm expecting them to feed me. No. Right. I mean, I had to eat. So, okay. So I had my own food. No one said anything. Thank God for that. Nobody, nobody said anything, but I wouldn't have expected either. But someone's going to make a whole stink. Can't you eat this? Can't you eat that? No. Treif is treif. If it's not kosher, it's not kosher. That's it. Can I drink some soda? Yeah, soda's kosher, not a problem. Can I have a piece of fruit? Yeah, not a problem. Can I eat this? Yeah, not a problem. Or it is a problem. Whatever it is. Right? I'm not going to make people go out of the way and make myself feel guilty for doing it. Person wants to, they will. If not, I have to do what I need to do. Can't worry about that. Right? So you get into, you could get into sticky situations, over here. Now, again, I would say that there could be issues where, a person wants to be really stringent on themselves, certain things they don't want to do, but really they could. According to Jewish law, they could. So, how much should they stick out for principle or not? What they believe in. So, that's why you have to have a mentor. Why have that, you have to ask someone. You have to someone who, has experience, in these things. And, sometimes person may hear something they don't want to hear. They don't really want to be there, looking for any excuse not to be there. But if it's going to mean so much, it's a family to be there or for a spouse to be there, and really there's nothing wrong with it technically, then, you should do it. But in such a situation, you tell them, okay, I'm here now, never make something like this again or expect me to come unless it's going to be kosher. That's it. And then you set the boundaries. And once you set the boundaries, you don't have issues. Hopefully you don't have issues, but you don't want to get stuck, right? You definitely don't want to, you definitely don't want to, you don't want to get stuck over here. Yeah, so let me see, there are questions here. 1 second here, let's see. Yeah, so someone here mentions how the Muslims soldier have a place to worship. Yeah. So again, for them, listen, for them, it's really fun. I laugh all the time. I'm on a bus and I'll see like these Arabs these Muslims the work site or whatever, and they just like throw themselves on the ground. Take on a mat, they'll bow, on the ground like at a work site, on the sidewalk, anywhere. They don't need a specific place to pray. I mean, it's better, obviously. You have a specific place, an honorable place to pray. Technically, Jews also, we can pray anywhere. I remember I went once with a friend of mine to the Dead Sea, right? So I went to Dead Sea, and it was getting later. So when we got there, there was a whole bunch of people in the parking lot who wanted to pray the afternoon service. I said, great, let's do it now. And we're outside praying. Okay, people in shorts, the whole problem praying in shorts anyway, and whatever, but we're not gonna, that's not the topic here, right? But you had a whole bunch of people prayed right there, right in the street. Now, obviously, it would have been better somewhere else. You don't have a synagogue nearby. There's nothing, you're in a desert, right? You're totally in the desert. You don't want to pray at the beach, that's worse, right? I mean, we're not talking about a mixed beach here anyway, but, even so, technically you could pray at the beach, if you wanted to. You just have to, have yourself covered. Right. But in this case, I said, great, had a whole bunch of people there, not a problem, like these COVID meetings, some people still have these. I have a Saturday night, I always have a meeting in my parking lot. It's very convenient, so you get 15 people, 20 people, whatever, and you're outside. Wouldn't it be better technically really to be in a synagogue? Maybe. Yeah, I'm not gonna deny that. Definitely not going to deny that, but you can pray anywhere. Essentially, you can pray anywhere as long as there are no bad smells and, and all that. But I just, I think it's kind of funny sometimes where, you just see these Muslims, they just like throw themselves on the ground, like whether in work clothes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going to pray to Allah, whatever. So they throw the mat down and they bow, and they prostrate themselves or whatever, and it's just, I don't know why I just like chuckle every time. It's kind of funny, just see the work site, you see somewhere else and they're like on the floor, like they're on the ground. Okay. That's that's what they do. So technically you can pray anywhere, right? As long as it's, as long as there's, no bad smells, and all that. So, yeah. So again, obviously there's decorum, what a synagogue should be, and what you should really speak about or not speak about in the synagogue. There are serious laws in decorum, certainly about a synagogue. I've seen people also being on a bus. Yeah, they stop at the side of the road, the sun's going down, they know they're not going to make it to a synagogue, to a service. They stop the car, they get out and they pray. They get out, they pray on the side of the road. Right? They misjudge the time or whatever the case is, but the sun's going down, so they pray. Right? Because it's certainly better to pray even by yourself, than to miss the entire service and have to pray twice, the next service or, whatever the case is. I'll see that. Right? I want to see it's not so common, but, definitely seen it. Definitely seen it over the years. Yeah. Someone asked, the man on the stick is present, that's idolatry. So there's a difference. There's a difference. Right? Talbert, blessed memory, was once in a Catholic hospital, and he took a bed sheet. He would get away with that. I'd probably get slapped upside the head. He took a bed sheet, and covered this thing hanging up there. So someone came in and like, what's going on here? So he said, I'm not, I'm barely wearing any clothes. It's probably offensive to, your God, is hanging up there, so to speak. And I'm like basically naked. So I want to show respect. So I covered him up. Like he got away with that. Like, I don't know how many people necessarily get away with that. But the point is, even if it's hanging up there, yeah, even if it's hanging up there, I can't pray in such a place. That's true. Can I play cards in such a place? I mean, does that guy hanging up there? So again, I'm not an expert, so anyone can chime in here. If that guy's hanging up in the room, does that make it and nobody's praying there? Right now, nobody's praying there. Does that make the whole room forbidden? Right? So the little I know, I would say no. According to Judaism, that wouldn't necessarily make it forbidden. Right? To go in there. Doesn't mean he can pray there. That's a different issue. Right? That'd be a different issue. Right? If you took something and you covered them up, yeah, that's a different, you're making fun of it or whatever. So that might be okay. That in that sense, that might be okay. But just him hanging there, so to speak, he's hanging up there. Let's say I want to play cards there. Is there any problem? Can I play cards there? He's staring right at me, so I'll stare back at him. Okay. Are you allowed to play cards there? Are you allowed to do anything else there? So that shouldn't be a problem. Praying there would be a problem. No question about it. Praying there would be a problem. Yeah. But the fact that he's hanging out there doesn't make the whole place forbidden. The church itself, built for what it is, makes the whole place forbidden in general. In general. Yeah. But if you have a side room, even if he's hanging up there, that doesn't necessarily forbid the place altogether. Right. Now, this whole question, right? We brought this up many years ago once, giving a class, and he mentioned you go into what do you call it? In South Africa, it's like, I was in South Africa for many years, 6 months out of the year for about, 13, 14 years. And he was 6 months there, 6 months in Israel. And there were people who say women gave birth. So after they give birth, they go to, let's say, a convalescent place for, a few days, let's say, and in every single place, they had a person, that this guy on a stick. Right. So praying there is a problem. That for sure is a problem. Right. That's for sure a problem. But doing anything else there shouldn't be a problem. Right. It has to be something that's used for idolatry. Right. There's a question. One of the later commentaries asks, let's say you had what do you call it? Plates. You had plates, and the picture on the plates going around on the rim of the plate is a manger scene, let's say. Are you allowed to eat from the plate? Right? So what's the answer? Well, the answer is you're allowed to eat from the plate. Why? Because nobody worships it that way. Nobody worships the plate that way. If, let's say, I know of a case where, in a kosher Chinese restaurant, one of the workers wanted to use the plates from the restaurant to give an offering to his God or whatever. So the rabbi there said, use a plastic plate. If you use a regular plate, that makes the plate forbidden to use. Yeah, because it's worship. It's used for idolatry. This is not used for idolatry. Now, there is a question. There's a difference of opinion, the cross itself. Someone wears a cross. Yeah. They may kiss it for good luck, for any number of things, whatever. There's a difference of opinion whether the cross itself, in that sense, is idolatry or not. Some say it is, right? Some definitely say it is. Let's say you get the Pope, right? Pope see himself, wears his, humongous cross, and people bow in front of him and kiss it. Yeah, that would be a problem. That 100%, that'd be idolatry, right? So that cross would be idolatry. Now, it's not used for that. It wouldn't be used for that, right? Some would say it's not idolatry. You say, but it's what it represents. True. Right? There's a difference of opinion over here. So let's just make clear, anything used in any service for idolatry, anything, holy wafers, wine, that be used for that service, whatever it is, can never get benefit from it. A Jew can never get benefit from it. Got to flush it down the toilet. Take the wafers and flush them. Nobody should get any benefit from it, right? Because it was used for idolatry. right? Even though they're not worshiping the thing itself. No one's worshiping a wafer. I mean, some people do. I've seen people eat them. Not these type of wafers or whatever, but like, you see how people eat. They're definitely worshiping food, no question. But I don't want to digress here. The point is, anything used for idolatry, even if it's food, that food cannot get benefit from it. A Jew can never get benefit from it. They'll destroy it, right? Totally has to be destroyed. Like it's been used for idolatry. If it's something that's the question, what if it's been designated but not used for idolatry yet? So that's a question, right? Whether that's considered it's already for idolatry or not. If it's been used 100% for idolatry, nothing to talk about. Let's say you have candles. Incense, even better. You use incense. I can use the incense 100 times, right? I can use the incense 100 times. If I could use the incense 100 times, I can't use it for anything. That makes it idolatry, right? Until it's totally used up, right? So you have something like that. So anytime something's been used for idolatry, a Jew can never get benefit from it. No question. What if someone got this question a lot also? What if someone has the Bible, right? The New Testament, even if it's written in Hebrew, right? New Testament, Old Testament, written in Hebrew, you can burn it. 100% you can burn it. Can you give it to another non-Jew? No. Can't give it to another non-Jew. You have to destroy it. If someone already has lots of notes in it, they want to use it to do counter-missionary work, they can keep it. They'd be allowed to use it. They'd be allowed to use it for that. But in general, if not, get rid of it. Doesn't have any holiness. Even if God's name is written, there's no holiness in it. Because the Gemara says, what if I have a min, I have a heretic, or it's an acronym for Yeshua Noitzri, meaning talking about JC, just it was censored, right? So they use a different terminology for him. So let's say, the Gemara says, a min, this heretic, writes a Sefer Torah. Let's say he writes a Sefer Torah, right? He writes a Torah scroll. What do you do with the Torah scroll? You burn it. Can't use it. You have to burn it. That's the obligation. Why? What about the holiness of the letters? What about God's name written 100 times, 1,000 times? There's no holiness in it, right? Because he wrote it. He's a heretic. He wrote it. If he was a Jewish heretic, same thing. But that'd be the same thing. So now there's a question. I know a rabbi got this question. He was a scribe. In a conservative synagogue, asked him to fix the Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah was possible, was blemished. So they asked him to check it and fix it. Is he allowed to? Right? Is he allowed to? Right? What's the question? Reformer conservative Jews are an aberration of Torah mitzvahs, aberration of Judaism. Right? They're going to misuse, they're going to abuse the Sefer Torah. Have women read from it. Who knows what else they're going to do with it? Are you allowed to fix it? You say, well, maybe if you fix it and it's proper, maybe it'll have an effect on people. Right? Or do you say, no, they're going to abuse it. They're going to abuse it. So therefore, it shouldn't be allowed to. Right? Because they're not using it right. Right? They're not going to use it in the right way. So they're not going to use it in the right way. You can do whatever it takes to get rid of it. Right? That's what I'd say on that. Somebody here asks, if a bank person gives money, i.e. a goy, goes to the bank, towards his deposit was more than he had in the bank, can he keep the money? Anyone who wants to do that for me, I'm more than open. Instead of putting $100 into my account to put 100,000, I very easily overlook that. Problem is you can't do that. Why? You report your deposit was more than he had in the bank. And then let's say they credit him. This is the case, let's say the bank itself made a mistake, right? Bank itself made a mistake. Bank itself made a mistake. Technically, you're allowed to keep the money. But there is a prohibition in the Torah. The prohibition in the Torah says, "V'davar sheker tirchak." Not allowed to lie. You got money, it doesn't belong to you. Oh, someone's going to say, but they did it. It's their mistake. You go anywhere, you didn't pay, you paid in cash. right? You paid in cash, let's say, and you got change back. You don't really check it. You leave the store, you realize they gave you too much. Doesn't have to be significant. They gave you too much. Yeah, you have an obligation to return it. You're going to say once you left, it's their fault. True. But I'll just say there have been cases. There have been cases where people, wanted to see if they would return the money or not. Right? And that's a big Kiddush Hashem, big sanctification of God's name, where somebody, somebody returned the money. There was a case a number of years ago. Someone bought a secondhand, chest of drawers, I think. It was a desk. I think it was a desk. And what happened was they found in the desk, an envelope. Found an envelope for like $20,000 in there. There was like $20,000 cash in there or something. Or whatever. There was a lot of money in there. So the person made inquiries. Made a lot of, it's an Orthodox Jew, right? Made a lot of inquiries, found out who originally belonged to, or whatever the case was, and returned the money. Return the money. People made a huge deal about it. I mean, it is a big deal. Think about it. You found an envelope of cash. It was placed in there. Who says I have to go looking for people to see what belongs to? Right? Not saying finders, keepers, but at the end of the day, what do I have? Right? Someone left it there. There's no sign on it. Doesn't have anybody's name on it. Right? You can say, okay, somebody put it there. Obviously, it wasn't there to be left, but someone left it there. Technically speaking, probably could have taken it. Right? Right? But he went beyond the letter of the law. Let's say. And it was a big, big sanctification of God's name. Big sanctification of God's name. Yeah. If someone finds $20,000, no signs, no nothing. It's yours, right? It's yours. You don't have to return it. Right? You really don't have to return it. There are honest people out there. But by us, it's an obligation. It's not just, if I feel like it or not, or whatever. No, it's an obligation. It's an obligation. It's not yours. You're going to say, well, maybe God gave it to you. God wanted you to have it, maybe. Well, that's not the way we look at it. Right? So in such a case, you deposited more than you said it was, and they credit you. Let's say the bank makes the mistake. I've never had this happen, but the bank makes a mistake. They make the mistake. So the bank makes the mistake. You can say it's their mistake. It's their mistake. They don't find it, but they let it go for a week or two. They don't find the mistake. Yeah. So really, you could probably keep it. You could probably keep it, but again, it's not yours. You wouldn't be allowed to. Yeah. Even if they don't catch the mistake, it's stealing. It's what's the word? What's the word in English? You're misleading people. You're telling them something's not true. You're lying. That's what it is. It's a lie. Right? Essentially, it's a lie. So therefore, so I misread the question. Sorry. The bank says it's okay. They realize it was a mistake. The bank says you can keep it. Okay. If the bank said, now you go to it can't be just a teller. Teller doesn't have any power, right? You have to go to the manager. You have to go to the higher ups there and say, there was a $5,000 mistake here. There's not, they made the mistake. And if the president of the bank or the higher up, whoever's got the power to make the decision says, you've been a good customer for all these years. We want to reward you, even if it was our mistake, it's on us. Now, let's say someone has that power. They have to have the ability to have that power. They don't have that power, they can't do that. Right? Teller can't just say, yeah, don't worry about it. They have to have someone of power there. Right? So now, if they say you can keep the money. Who says you have to return it? I have to be, I have to go beyond the letter of the law and say, no, it's not really mine. Right? If someone in power says it's your money, it's your money. If it's legal, if they have the power to do that, then there's no issue. Right? I would get in writing. I would definitely get in writing. If they want you to have it, let them sign off on it and say this money is yours. Then and if they're just testing you and they say, no, we would never do that. You think we'd ever do that? Whatever. You get in writing. Then you don't have any questions, right? You say you put it in writing. There was a mistake made. You allow me to keep the money. Sign president of the bank or sign general manager of the bank or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's yours. You don't have to give it back. If they decide they admit the mistake, they allow you to keep it. You don't have to keep it. I don't think it's going to happen, but if they would, you don't have to return it. I also have to teach Jews in the synagogue. Besides YouTube, where do you think? Where do you think most classes are? Most classes, you tell me. Well, you live in the Jewish areas and you don't know what goes on. Yeah, where are most Jewish classes today? They're not online. They're in person, in synagogues, right? Obviously, it's better to be in a holier place than doing it online. I don't think there's any question. Right? Synagogue is a tremendously holy place. You got to treat it with respect. There are laws of decorum, very strict laws of decorum in the synagogue, not the purpose for now, right? But there are strict laws. There are strict laws over here, no question, right? So where would be the bigger mitzvah to give a class? In a synagogue, a study hall, let's say, or online. In a synagogue, no question. Can you teach anywhere as long as the place is clean? Sure, that's not a problem. That's definitely not a problem at all, right? The main obligation would be able to teach. There's stories in the Gemara they taught in the square, town square and other places, as well. They didn't just teach in the synagogue, but where is the main place people are going to come? Let's say on a festival or Shabbos in the synagogue. You're not going to teach them in the street, on Shabbos in general. Right, everyone's gathered in synagogue. That's where the majority of classes should be. But again, doing things online, I think it's an unbelievable thing. You get people all over the world can tap in. Where if they're living in the middle of nowhere and they can't get out of Dodge, and they're able to, access, good classes. That's huge because they don't have anything in person. Right, in person is always better. Right, in person in the synagogue or wherever, someone's going to teach, whether it's the synagogue or not, right? Obviously better in the synagogue, but there's no question it's better, no question. And learning in person is for sure better. This is second best, at best, there's no question, no question. But this fulfills a tremendous need. People get information all over the world, right? No question. One of the customer servers at the bank has the ability to make account adjustments. Good. If they have the power, they have that authority, then okay. I would say though, even if they do make adjustments, yeah, you're not talking about a small amount here. You're talking about a few dollars here, a few dollars there, whatever. You want to tell me, a clerk is going to make a $10,000 mistake? Yeah, I don't think anyone's signing off on that. Yeah, if they would, you say, well, I have authority, I can give you this money. Yeah, me personally, I would say I don't think you do. I want to speak to the manager. That's it. You speak to the manager, right? But you're right. If they would have that kind of power, I would just take it a little bit further, but you're 100% right. If they would have that kind of power and they could say, okay, I'm going to adjust this, you get $5,000 credit, right? And they have that kind of power, then yeah, there wouldn't be an issue. I mean, I would take it to a higher up, but you're 100% right. That would be the case, right? That would definitely be the case. Someone asks, is it true that it's not possible to pray Shemona Esrei, right, on a plane? Some people, right, I wonder why, because you got to be standing or bowing. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. One issue is, first of all, even if you want to pray and you have 10 men to pray, and it's a big thing to be able to answer, certain prayers and whatever, with 10 men, nonetheless, you're disturbing people sleeping. That's a serious problem. Right. So I know great rabbis would say, don't pray, pray in your seat. You can't stand, Shemona Esrei, you can't, okay. And what if you do it, you're in a wheelchair? Forget on a plane. What if you're in a wheelchair? You can't walk. Can't stand. Right? Impossible to stand. You pray in a chair. You can't take 3 steps back. Okay, so you have to do the motions of what you're doing. So on an airplane also, same thing. Right? No question. No question, but the exact same thing. Right? So even if you can't stand and take the 3 steps back, you can do it in a chair. Right? You definitely can do it in a chair. What if the secular Jewish woman have her head covered? She doesn't have her head covered. Yeah, it's a problem also. That's also a definite problem. Right? So what do? You have to turn your head away so you don't see it. Right? As if they were in front of your face when you're making Kiddush. Friday night, no difference. You have to look at something else. You can't look at them while you're making Kiddush. Or making any blessing in front of them. Right? You know, a secular Jewish woman that's married has an obligation to cover her hair. 100%. Right? 100% you would have to turn away. You cannot make a blessing in front of them. Right? You cannot look at them and make a blessing. Let's say better. You'd have to either look at something else. You have to turn to the side if possible, which is going to be pretty hard. You know, you can't turn your back to a person and do that. That's pretty rude, right? You definitely won't get away with that, right? For sure you won't. No matter what excuse you make, you won't get away with it, right? So you have to either focus on something else. Definitely focus on something else. Otherwise you're right. If a woman doesn't have a Jewish woman who's married doesn't have a hair covered, you can't make a blessing around it, right? That's definitely true. That's definitely true. But if you're on a plane, I would say you pray in your seat. That's the only thing you can do, right? You pray in your seat. Try not to disturb people around you. That's the only thing you can do. There are great rabbis that'll say even if you have 10 men, don't even bother making them. Don't even bother making the service on the plane. Forget it. You're going to disturb people, this, that, forget it. Right? You shouldn't do it. So you pray on your own. Right. Can you say Shmona Esrei? You can. And you should. You can also say other things, say Tehillim, other things, but yeah, if you can pray. If you have an obligation to pray, sun's going to go down, let's say, you're on a plane, you should pray. I don't think there's any question. You should pray. Right? You should pray on the plane. You can't stand this and that. Okay, so certain things you can't do, but you still go through the motions and pray. Statues and pictures in the church don't affect the soul of a non-Jew. I would say no. I would say they don't. But again, I would say, if a Noahide was in a church, even if nobody's there, no prayer service going on, they definitely shouldn't pray there either. Even if it doesn't affect it. Even if it doesn't affect it. Yeah. I would think that, it can have effect. Even if a non-Jew has a different type of soul. Yeah, we don't understand the power of impurity, of these things. These things have real strong power of impurity. Right? I would say, it can affect the non-Jew in a negative way also. Right? I don't know 100% that's true. So take that with a grain of salt. I would think it can have the power to not to say make them impure like a Jew in different ways, per se, but like these type of things, the Torah says you're not allowed to have an abomination in your house. What's the Torah talking about? Idolatry. What about a non-Jew? Non-Jew allowed to have idolatry in the house? They should get rid of it, even if they're not. Someone asked me once about they have in their attic somewhere, they have in a box some stuff their kids made. What do you call it? Things for a tree for December 25th, ornaments, whatever. They're allowed to keep it. Sentimental value. It's not idolatry. Okay, the tree's pagan. The whole thing is pagan. Fine. They don't worship the tree. I don't know anybody worships the tree. So it doesn't make it into idolatry itself. So the ornaments themselves are not idolatry. The question is, should you have it in your house? It's a different issue. a New Testament, yeah, you should get rid of. Anything else that has to do with idolatry, you get rid of. You destroy. That's true. This isn't necessarily idolatry. If it's got sentimental value, I said, if it's got sentimental value, you can keep it. But think about if you really want to have it. If it wasn't sentimental value, let's say. Someone points out, yeah, very true. These pictures, these statues, they just make you feel like disgusting. Yeah, that's the feeling. That's the feeling of impurity. That's what it is. It makes you feel gross. Makes you feel like you have to be in the mikveh for like a month with your rubber ducky and your snorkel. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, it's just, also, it's so hard to imagine a Jew, becomes a Christian because of all the things the Christians have done throughout the millennium. It's like, how can you even, okay, you want to be a Muslim, I can understand, in a certain sense, right? But, look at all the people they killed and they butchered in his name, and now you're going to come and embrace it. That's like, goes against logic. It's totally illogical, right? In many ways. Yeah. How much secular subjects are important? Depends for what. Depends what you need it for. In general, would I say it's important? No. But knowledge is empowering. If it's something useful, definitely something useful, then yeah, it's a different issue. Then it's a different issue. But there's so much to learn in Judaism. What do you need to learn it for? It's interesting. I was just hearing something by a great rabbi recently that in a few minutes that sometimes one of the great commentaries of Bar Bernal, who was a great commentary on the Torah and Tanakh, like sometimes he'll bring in like Christian interpretation of how they look at like some verses, which I've heard of. It's not, he does it sometimes. I don't know too many other people that in some of the great commentaries, do such a thing. But in general, I just came across this morning. I was learning something in in Tanakh, and I was going to the Bar Bernal, and he quoted I don't know, one of the Christian non-Jews, whatever, and I was like, oh, I just heard this earlier. I said, oh, they interpret it like this, we look at it like this. Yeah, like who cares what they say? But there are times where it definitely brings it down. So not, secular subjects have their place. I'm not going to say not. A person does research on certain things can help them in business, help them in finance, help them in other things. But I would say some people say secular knowledge for secular knowledge's sake. No, that I would say not. If it's got good use, you can use it very good. Right, if it's got a purpose. There are a million things to know in Torah. I don't even worry about this stuff. But if it's something that can affect a person can gain from it. Yeah. But the Gemara, it says in Book of Joshua, a person should study day and night. So when are you allowed to learn what the Gemara says? Chochmas Yuvonis, wisdom of the Greeks. When are you supposed to learn it? When it's not day or night, at dusk, when the sun's going down. That's the only time you're allowed to learn it, or in the bathroom, right? Let's say that's the only time. You're allowed to learn these other things. But everyone today would say, you can't take that necessarily at face value, right? If you need to learn secular things for your job or whatever, so that's a different issue. That has a purpose. That has a purpose, and in order to make a good living, whatever, you have to master it. Whatever. Okay, so that's going to take time out of learning, out of Torah learning, but you have an obligation. That you would have an obligation to study the best of your ability, do the best you can in order that you have more success. Do people go overboard with that? Yeah, but it could be that some people justify and say, yeah, I need to learn it. I need to memorize this and memorize that and the other thing. True, right? It can have a purpose. It doesn't have a purpose if you just person, wow, look, I learned general history of the world. Okay, but at what expense? At what expense? To help understand something, the Jewish world, something happened 100 years ago, 500 years ago, something to give you a little bit different perspective. Okay, I can hear such a thing. But I would say the majority of things, I would say it's probably a waste of time. Most cases. Yeah, I see there are a lot of questions here, and I have to run, so I'll do these, I guess, on Thursday. Yeah, I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman. We'll be on Orthodox Conversion and Judaism or orthodoxconversion.com. Or you can find me beyond Orthodox Conversion and Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus, controversial issues. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com, whichever good.